watching a Fact TV presentation of the town of Swanzey.
I got my list out. Roll call. Scott Sell here. Richard Lane here. Mark Scalera here. Brandon Self here. Michael York here. Selectman's Rep Sly Karasinski here. Victoria Ames
Here.
Michael Scungill alternate
Here.
and Brian Virgil alternate and Steve Malone alternate. Here. Okay, we have a full board, so we'll not be seating any of the alternates. The agenda for this evening will be the approval of minutes. That would be the January 25th, 2024 non-public meeting and the March 28th, 2024 minutes. Under applications and public hearings, we have planning board number 24-005. This is a multi-tenant application. Monarch Construction LLC has submitted a multi-tenant application to lease two existing units in the Contractor Bay facility building at 67 California Street to operate a roofing and general contracting business. Subject property is shown at tax map 108 lot 6 and is located in the commercial, industrial, and in the rural agricultural districts. Item B is planning board number 24-003. This is a continued public hearing. That's Horizons Engineering on behalf of Nucar Nissan of Keene requests a site plan review for construction of a new flex space building and associated site improvements for their dealership at 544 Monadnock Highway. Subject property is located at map 222 lot 34 in the business district and any other business that may be required. So I'll go to the beginning, and before we start, I'll make sure that there's a motion for regional impact, as we always do.
I'll move that there is none.
Motion by Michael York that there is no item on tonight's agenda that require a regional impact. Also, seconded by Mark. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, second order of business would be the minutes. Before we get to that, Mark, you were on Zoom last meeting.
I was.
And when we don't have any applications, like we do tonight, when we don't have applications on Zoom, anybody's on Zoom, you won't be seated as a regular member. You'll be a member of the board, but you won't be seated, and I will seat an alternate here in person to vote, because the voting has to take place in person. So that's, okay, so we're all clear on that.
I actually thought that was the case.
It is, but we had no applications, so there's no problem at all being on there. I didn't say anything else because we had no applications. Okay, so that's how that works. So
You were probably happy I wasn't here.
oh, I was disappointed to see you here tonight. So we have the January 25th, 2024 non-public meeting. The minutes are on the back of. Everybody read those minutes?
Yep.
And a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Motion to approve the minutes by Richard Lane. Is there, a second? Do I have a second on that? I will second it then. You weren't here. Okay, I will second that. Now, is there any further discussion? Any changes to the minutes? I think they comprise as to what we discussed.
Do we need to list who was present?
I didn't take those minutes.
But generally speaking, just for them to be correct, we need to list who was present.
They should be, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't have a copy of them, so I don't know. what
It's
to do
just-
yet.
Okay, so, yeah, good catch, yeah.
Forgot about that.
Yes,
Stefan.
yes, all those who are present at that meeting, especially not public, have to be named.
Okay,
If you give me, do I have can I get a copy of this? I can grab it. It's where.
but she doesn't. Oh, you don't have the packets that. You can have one of our copies that I can give you mine after the meeting's over, like that. You can
No,
down.
what I would like to do is have access to the actual electronic file. Can you get me that?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, tell me who was there.
So this was a follow-up from the regular meeting, because I was at the regular meeting, and the last went to non-public, so I'm guessing everybody who was at the regular meeting
Was still here.
is still here.
Yeah, and just the public wasn't here.
Do you want me to?
I don't recall who was at that. Do you know who was at that?
Well, it's in minutes.
We have the minutes from.
For that meeting, no?
January.
That was January 25. You have those?
No, but we did, but
Yeah. But it's whoever was at January 25th meeting.
yeah, but we didn't finalize that until the last meeting, correct?
Final as what? Yeah,
Yeah, there are changes.
oh, no, this is a non-public session. This is that one.
It just needs
Okay.
name.
And Stefan's looking it up for you now, right now. For that meeting, that's a January 25th meeting, 2021.
Should be everybody but Mark and,
Well, I wasn't a member of that.
so, yeah, but you.
Scott, yep,
Brandon,
I'm sorry,
Brandon,
yep,
Michael,
yep,
Jane,
yep.
Richard, Victoria.
Richards,
Me,
Lane,
Victoria,
okay,
Steve,
well,
myself,
yep.
Garrett.
And who was that last person?
Film producer.
But he wasn't really.
He wasn't a member.
He was packing up
Yeah.
to go with that. So
But
he
it
wasn't.
should just be a member, shouldn't it?
He should be listed though.
Okay,
Anybody else beside Garrett?
No, you were there via Zoom. It's about it, but Zoom was.
I was there.
I don't think she was there,
No, that was-
otherwise we would have had them, yeah.
I'm pretty sure you were there on Zoom.
So this.
No, I would have taken the minutes if I,
Yeah, you would have.
for some reason, I don't remember one. Okay, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people over there. If you will send me, or I have access to the electronic file, I'll clean it up and send it back to you.
Do you want the minutes from that day too? From the meeting,
That's what we're talking about, these minutes.
but do you want the regular minutes from the meeting?
no, they were really-
No,
No, I just need to correct.
Just that one.
So you can put it.
so the motion to approve with seconded would have the addition of the names of the members present at the meeting or people present at the meeting.
so we
So,
need
is
a
there,
motion as
yeah,
amended.
well, we've got a motion, yeah, and if the motion will be amended for that, or we're doing the amending anyways, right now. So, we can just take a vote. All those in favor of approving the January 25th non-public meeting with the changes that we just discussed, meaning the members present. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Okay. Thank you. Now we're down to the March 28th, 2024 minutes. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Motion by Victoria to approve the March 28th minutes. Is there a second?
Second,
Second by Richard Lane. Is there any discussion, further discussion, additions, anything else?
The only discussion is during that meeting, I tried to make the point of Zoom, I wasn't doing all that well, so it really didn't work out very well. I wouldn't mind after we get to our other agenda items today, to revisit the site plan review regulations. I'd like to just maybe propose one additional change.
But is there any change for the minutes?
There's no change.
Okay, no change for the minutes. Yeah, you can bring that up in the other business. So any other changes or additions to those minutes? If not, all those in favor of approving the minutes of March 28th? Indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay. It's out of the- And we move on to the meetings. This is on our applications and public hearings. This one is a public hearing, and that is a multi-tenant planning board number 24-005. And that's Monarch Construction NH LLC has submitted a multi-tenant application to lease 2 existing units in the contractor bay facility building at 67 California Street to operate a roofing and general contracting business. Its property is shown at 108 lot 6 and is located in the commercial, industrial, and rural agricultural districts. And before I open up the public hearing here, let's see. Yeah, okay. I've got. Yeah, we've got, it. Okay, and the public hearing is open. And it's the,
Mr. Chairman, point of order, isn't the completeness of the application considered before we open the public hearing?
usually on site plan review we do, but this is a multi-tenant application, and they've already had a completed site plan there, and it's been done.
Oh,
So this is hearing, something going, yeah. So public hearing is open. Is the applicant here?
Yeah, I'm Tyler.
Okay, so what are you doing?
So. First of all, this is Katie, she's our office manager, she joined us today.
The record is.
Yes, your name. Name for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Tyler Magoon.
Katie Demore,
Tyler,
Magoon.
Magoon.
thank you, and
Katie with an IE. Last name is Demore, DEM.
Ouray. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I, co-owned and operated a roofing and general contracting company, out of Keene, since July 2023. We have a couple of trucks, trailer, so far stock of materials that we were searching for a commercial space in which to operate out of. I've known, the Chappens for a while, they have some things over there that, meet our needs. So we won't have people, coming in and out of the building every day necessarily. It's more or less just gonna be for storage. We might have a desk and Wi-Fi in there. Have Katie operate out of there for a while until we can have a more suitable office space, as long as that's okay. But more or less just the storage of trucks, trailers, shingles, ladders, roofing materials, lumber, stuff of that nature. We would have, some materials from jobs that are left over, red dumpsters. Those wouldn't necessarily be on site, but they would be dumped by the disposal company. Is there anything else you'd like to know?
So no roofing debris from your jobs on site, that's what you were just saying about the dumpsters, is that what you're saying?
Not debris, no, I mean, there would be, leftover shingles.
Yeah, new shingles that you didn't use on the job,
Right.
or other items that you didn't use on the job.
Right.
And let's see, let me just see which building you're going into, is it, it's building number 2, right? That one there, and it's C and B, they're almost in the center of it there, correct? Yeah. Just to go with the application here, make sure we didn't miss anything. Under construction, doing. Commercial industrial. ag, contracting. Building number 2, B and C, that's on there. So hours are 7 AM to 6 PM, Monday through Friday.
Yes,
Full-time employees 1, part-time 5.
well, we technically have, 2 owners, so I guess would be full-time employees, we have 80, and then we have, five full-time employees, we have some part-time guys too.
Parking spaces is 4. Customers today is 0. Let's see, deliveries. Oh, you'll have materials delivery there, correct? 1 per day or less drop off for productive trail materials. So existing lighting, no permits. Or sign like to be added, existing sign entrance. Okay. Questions from the board?
So all your materials and trucks and everything, the intention is to store all that stuff inside those days?
I would say the materials and our tools for
Not
sure.
necessarily the vehicles.
With room provided, I suppose, we do have a trailer that, we'd like to park inside, especially during the winter months, so that it doesn't freeze up. If we could park a truck in the trailer inside, we definitely would do that. We might utilize some outside space as well.
But all the materials and ladders and stuff that valuable things.
Yeah, we want to make sure that's locked up,
Yeah.
definitely.
And any outdoor storage of shingles and job materials will not go into the parking places.
I don't plan on having any outdoor storage
Okay.
materials.
Okay, but if you do, if you have a truck dropping off shingles or something like that, make sure they don't put them in the parking spaces that are designated for your building or the other buildings there.
Okay, so you're saying if we have a delivery, I need to be there to accept it, to put it inside, I can't keep it?
No, I'm saying if you do store things outside, all the parking spaces are outside. Don't
Got it.
put them in the parking space
Okay, all right,
for the other tenants and yourself as well.
awesome.
So how many parking spaces are allocated to this?
4.
Okay, and so you have plenty of, like, if your employees want to meet there, out there, go together.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate any flammables or contaminants over there?
Yes, we do EPDM and single membrane roofing,
Mhm.
and the glue and the adhesive that's used is flammable.
Okay,
There are some materials that I guess would be considered, hazardous flammable materials. but we typically don't store those. They're not really a multiple use type of product. They're you buy a 5 gallon bucket, you know, if you use it on a job, if there's half a bucket left, really can't reuse it again. So we have to dispose of that and then, you know, buy new materials for the next job.
Steve,
Where will the, so I assume the employees will come and pick up the trucks in the morning.
Yes, either, the intention is not to meet at the shop every morning. The intention would be to have the crew meet us at the job. I might go and pick up the trailer and the materials, or, you know, I might have somebody with me, but, the intention is not to have everybody arrive there and meet there. No.
So the employees' cars basically will not be there on a regular basis.
That's mine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
okay,
under special circumstances, possibly, but not on a regular basis.
typically no.
but they can if they want. I mean, they got 4 apartments basically there, so they can park them there if they want. Yeah. So. Anybody else?
You were saying that if you have leftover glue or whatever, which is a hazardous material, will you have that in the truck when you bring it back and put it in storage? Until you,
Yeah, I mean, so the dumpsters that we rent for our jobs, we're not allowed to put any paint cans, any materials in there, so they would be traveling back with us, yes, I suppose.
okay, so you have, I'm not sure, but wouldn't they have to have some sort of hazmat secure area?
The fire department is gonna check that out as well as the building inspector for that. Those guys are usually the ones that handle. If they have a metal cabinet to put, you know, other places that had just a metal cabinet to put paint and thinners and all that type of stuff in and close it up in there. So fire department may have you do something like that.
Okay.
Anybody else? Any members from the public here on this? It's not. And if there are no further questions, then I will close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed. Well, it looks like pretty straightforward. You know, it's a good use of that space. There's people in there and they've put a lot into it. Nothing else, motion to approve the multi-tenant application would be in order.
I'll make that motion.
Motion to approve by Michael York, is there a second? I'll second. Seconded by Brandon, is there any further discussion?
Just one thing, when you mentioned the fire department stuff. Should that be mentioned? So that's checked off.
Yeah, it can be mentioned right into the motion. Want to make a motion to the
To include the fire department checking out.
inspection by the fire department in the building.
Yep.
Okay with that second? Yeah. I mean, with the amendment to the second, okay. And any other discussion? And all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Item number 8. Planning board number 24-003. That's a continued public hearing. And that's the. Everybody remember our new planning director here, Adam,
Yep, Paquette, it's the title of town planner. And happy to be here. I'll be back here permanently. It's originally from Manchester. So here in an observation capacity today, hopefully maybe play a role in achieving. But just building on my foundations here in Swanzey, used to be a large municipality, so trying to get a feel for the town. And you guys have any questions, please?
You were last in Colorado Springs,
I was, yep.
so that's what, about 500,000 people there?
Growing every day. We were a planning department, 40+ people, so a lot bigger. Happy to be back.
Welcome to civilization.
I'm very, very happy to be here.
Escaping Colorado.
Yes, very happy to be here. So, if you guys have any questions for me, I'll stick around after.
And you the same. Don't hesitate to interrupt and say what's going on, what you guys think you're doing. Or good. Well,
Because often we don't.
gladly fill you in.
Absolutely.
Item B is planning board number 24-003, site plan review is continued public hearing. Horizons Engineering on behalf of Nucar Nissan of Keene requests a site plan review for construction of a new flex-based building and associated site improvements for their dealership on 544 Monadnock Highway. Subject property is currently shown at tax map 222 lot 34 in the business district. And is the applicant here? Yes. Okay, then the public hearing is still open, so we ask you to come back with some information on the drainage, correct? On the pond, retention pond, and also on the lighting outdoors there as to the timing of it, and, you know, when they're possible direction of the shade, so I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, thanks. My name is Will Davis. I'm with Horizons Engineering. Yeah, so thanks for that introduction. We were also asked to add fuel storage tanks, exterior fuel storage tanks to the existing conditions plan. And we have shown those. There's 1,000 gallon propane tank. There's a waste oil tank that's 1,900 gallons. And a 2,000 gallon above ground fuel storage that's in the fenced in enclosure in the back. So those are all labeled on our.
You've added those into your site plan?
Correct, on the existing conditions.
Okay.
So that shows up there. And I'll go over the drainage. So, you know, we were asked to look and see if the detention pond that's there, you know, is functioning as it was originally intended and designed. Mike Jasmine was helpful and found some of the old documentation, the letter report from the previous engineer as well as the prior design plan. So we took that, used that, we put it into our HydroCAD model, our stormwater modeling. We're able to replicate that and get the same result that he had from the design. So we knew we had it kind of calibrated. Then we went out and did a site inspection, looked at these, its conditions of the pond, measured it up, noted a few things. You measured the horizontal dimensions, the depth and all that. That's almost exactly per plan. So the volume there is exactly the same as was designed. There's a good bit of vegetation growing in the pond. So woody vegetation, you know, kind of shrub stuff, which you don't really want in a detention pond. So that's one thing we noted. We also noted that there's some standing water in the pond during our inspection, which was during some heavy snow melt and spring conditions, but that's not really, I don't think, the intended, you know, situation, right? There shouldn't have to be standing water in the detention pond, just a little bit. The other thing we noted was that the outlet pipe was just set slightly higher than was designed, not a major deviation. So then we went back to the office, plugged all of that into our model to see how those conditions also with the change to the site. So we're putting the building in where the parking lot is, right? So as we talked about last time, right now a good portion of the parking lot flows into the pond. Similar situation, but portion of the roof is going to be flowing into the pond now too. But it's not a change, and it's actually a slight decrease in the impervious area going to the pond. So anyway, we modeled all that. Long story short, it still meets the 50-year event. So based on the new condition, the pond as it sits now would meet the 50-year peak rate of runoff, which was the original intention. So with all that in mind, we looked at it, we said, well, you know, it's not dewatering the way that it's supposed to, right? So we have proposed a new pipe at the bottom of the basin. So it'll be a 6-inch pipe with a cap on it and then a small 1-inch orifice. So this is intended to dewater the pond in the situation where it's not fully infiltrating all the water, right? So in a large storm event, it'll still go out the main pipe, but this will allow that little bit of water that's kind of standing in it now to make sure that gets out. It'll help with maintenance. It'll prevent some of this vegetation from growing that we don't want in the pond. So updated the model again based on that information, and it still works. So essentially, that minor modification will hopefully help some of the maintenance issues. We're still meeting the 50-year peak rate of runoff. In addition to all that, we're recommending that they do some maintenance on the pond, so remove all that woody vegetation, the scrub veg. And get it back to a condition where it's like a grass detention pond that can be maintained, weed whacked, mowed. The other thing that we did, we kind of looked at the overall drainage on the site while we were there, and also noted that on the, if you were looking at the plan on the bottom left corner, a portion of the roof drains now outlet to that existing wetland area, right? So that pipe needs to be cleaned out, so we've recommended that on our plan as well, it shows that pipe being cleaned out and a little bit of stone outlet being installed there to try to improve that situation, just make sure it's easier to maintain in the future. So that's the quick drainage rundown, and then Tony is on, I believe, online and can explain. He's done a bit of work with the neighbors as well as the electrician to work on the lighting situation. So Tony, I'll turn it over to you.
Just before you do, the discharge pipe, original discharge pipe is gonna remain at its elevation that you saw at now, right? And you're just gonna add in the other pipe down below.
Correct.
And that stays as it is.
Right.
Okay. And how do you keep that 1-inch hole from clogging up?
So there's a trash, we're suggesting it's like a little cage, basically. It's a wire mesh like trash rack, essentially.
Around
cage
around the discharge pipe
right,
leading into that.
correct. And so that's also why you use a 6-inch pipe and put a cap with a small hole in it so that you have a bigger pipe to work with and put that little cage on it. So it's something that'll have to be maintained. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Sure, and turn it over to.
All right, Tony, you there?
What is Tony, is he on Zoom or we don't know?
He said he was. Maybe he's having a hard time.
So Scott, what is his last name? Probably.
For Coco, I believe.
For Coco?
Yeah.
Oh, I know this.
Well,
He's here, but for whatever reason, it's. The computer's usually it's not picking up.
all right, he's calling me. I can just put him on speaker.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Hey, Tony, you there?
The planning board, but nobody can hear me. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you might want to mute your computer. You're getting feedback there. But I can hear you and I got you on speaker here.
Is this better, everybody?
It is, we can barely hear you a little bit, but,
I can do my best to repeat if needed. Yeah, go ahead.
Physically.
just have him repeat it. Just repeat it.
So we're finding out at night when they're supposed to go off and be on timers, it'd be 50% lumens in the front, and that's not necessarily happening. I had a chance to talk with the neighbor, who also found out that the second row was tilted in such a way where it shines on his house. We went over with the electrician this week. And the electrician is going to get a bucket lift to get close enough to the sensors on each one of the poles to properly program them and make sure that they're working as intended. It has discussed with the neighbor, who is happy with the way that it's programmed, or we're going to be programming it. When we're finished, we're going to go a couple days later just to ensure it's working as designed at night, and he's satisfied.
So would you just explain what you mean by the sensors on each pole?
Yes, we have sensors on each pole. We can program to be motion sensors and shut off at a certain period of time, but it's more controlled than just standard lights. So at 9:30, now once we get them programmed, we have them on a app. Where we have control of the operations of those lights. So at at 9:30 at night, we can have them shut off, only to come on during motion for a period of time.
So you can change that, without going up in a bucket truck, is that what?
We gotta get close enough because we can't pair up to the sensors. They were never paired properly before they were put up.
So do you think after you tear them up now, you'll be able to do it from the ground?
Absolutely.
Okay. That's
Absolutely.
what I was wondering, all right?
Yeah. Basically, we can actually change the movements, the wattage, specifically of the front lights, that only be at 50%.
Oh, okay, good.
Which would be
Yeah,
a huge difference for the neighbors.
yeah.
And then the second coat, again, if I'm up there typically at night, and I'm not at his house, so I just don't know without talking to him. So those can be adjusted down where, between those two things, it would fix everything for them.
Okay, and your time frame to get all this done was what?
I was hoping to have it done before this meeting. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to pull it off. We're talking weeks.
2 weeks,
Yes, sir.
okay. Any questions of the board? Tony here. No? Any questions from the public?
Just a comment, we do appreciate Tony coming over to our house, and he did bring Joshua Tenney, the electrician, and they are working hard to resolve the issue for us, and we appreciate it.
Okay, do you have it? Okay,
Yes, for the last time.
all right. Any other members of the public commenting on this? Okay, so any other questions about the site plan from the board? Tori?
On page 3, one of the comments is that stormwater from the proposed buildings parking areas is directed to the existing catch basins. However, a stormwater chamber infiltration system was not identified. Is that an issue that we need to address?
I wasn't,
Yeah.
you don't have one of those systems on that property.
Is that so?
Yes,
What is that from?
yes.
Yes, that all they have on the property for stormwater is at
Is that
the detention pond down the
Oh.
corner.
And then just a general question about those kinds of ponds, you're going to be removing the wood vegetation. And do the ponds, well, I mean, do they actually work? Can you explain the impact of having woody vegetation growing in the pond? I would think they might, if it's trees, it might suck some more of the water out and, cause.
Yeah, you typically want to maintain them in a way that doesn't happen, because over time, they get to be big, that will start actually taking up volume of the pond. It can impact the pipes that are there, right?
The root structure.
Yeah,
I just have.
yeah. And it just becomes easier to maintain if you keep it without the woody vegetation. You can just weed whack it, right?
Any other questions? Before I close the public hearing. Once I close it, we're done with testimony.
Loading, unloading of the trucks, part of something we should.
It will be, but that was discussed at the last meeting. We can discuss it again right here if you want, bring it right up, but that was discussed at the last meeting, that truck flow in there, and that should be entered into the motion as well, but yes, bring the question up if you like.
Okay, has that been established? That there will definitely be no on-street or on-highway unloading during the evening? I think, if I remember, something was said to the fact that the owner was going to pass that information on again to the trucking companies. What provisions have been made to make sure that that's going to be done and unloaded within the complex of Nucar?
Yeah, I'm not sure, other than I know that they were intending to pass that on. I think as was stated last time, it's somewhat a little bit out of their control in terms of, they can ask the trucking companies to do it, but the individuals that show up sometimes might do it on their own, right? So I think I'm not sure, they will do their best to convey that.
It'll be in the motion that's not part of the site plan approval, that they can park on the street. That's how it will be. That is, all the unloading should be done in there. If they do park on the street and do it, then that can be dealt with the cops or whoever deals with it, but
Police department have to deal with
the
that.
site plan will have that it's all unloading is done on property.
Right, I know that that's certainly their intent, and we've
Yeah.
talked about how they typically, you know. Come in and unload and back out,
Good.
Next week,
Yeah,
I would just like to say it's really beyond their control on these independent units and coming in late at night when nobody's there. You
it
know,
is.
They will do it. It's not a problem to me, but I can sympathize with the owners. They're not there today. You can't do this.
And we aren't saying that we're gonna revoke their site plan if that happens. But what we're saying is that it's gonna be clear that the site plan does not approve that.
Right, okay,
Okay.
because they're pretty independent guys.
Yeah, and they are, and they kind of have to be, and you know, that stuff does happen. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Just one more question, this is identified as the revised rendering, is that actually how before the last application? It was, you determined that it wasn't exactly what it's gonna look like, is this what it's gonna look like?
that's the correct one, so there was a door right here was added. There's one, what's that?
I've done like the most recent one that you sent a couple days ago.
Oh, it hasn't changed though since then.
And you put some plantings here, are those actually gonna be part of the facade?
I mean, they have some plantings there now, and I think that they're intending to just keep those basically, yeah.
Anybody else? Then I will close the public hearing. Public hearing is closed. Okay, so you know what they want to do. They brought back the information that we requested. And actually, they're looking into it all and added on to the site plan where the storage of propane, I think it is gonna be, and waste oil tank is gonna be. And they talked about the drainage part of it. So if we do approve it tonight, we probably ought to have a few conditions in there that just mentions the improvements that they're going to do. Like cleaning out the detention pond, that vegetation, which is always a good idea. And to clean out the pipe in front, that part of the drain in front came down, I think just some crushed stone in front there. They were gonna clean that out, clean the pipe out, and make sure that that is cleaned out. And that all offloading is done on site.
And the addition of the small new pipe. So is that not gonna be-
No, we'll put that in. They're gonna do that, but we can put it in there anyways, because they mentioned it. So the addition of the small, actually 1 inch in the tension pond, yes.
The completion of the lighting changes.
And the lighting change, completion of lighting changes within 2 weeks. And we ought to, well, actually, it would be Mike that would be checking that out. The planning board can check that out, but with Mike, that we're making sure that that happens in 2 weeks. So
And a bunch about the pond as well. And I think in the absence of the math and the rest of back it up, that just responsible, so if anything happens moving forward.
if it floods out there, they gotta fix it. That's what you're saying. Yeah.
And also on staff comments, the horn installed for fire protection systems. On the new building.
And that would be done,
Sorry.
recommendation, but it doesn't have to be done. If the fire department wants it done, then it will be done. But the planning board, if you want to put that in there as a condition, I don't think it's necessary that it has to be done. But the fire department and code enforcement inspects all these properties anyway. So if they have a recommendation that that needs to be done, otherwise their inspection doesn't go through.
The lighting will be adjusted to seasonal changes of sunrise. So
I think it's time. Well, they may be able to do that with the sensors that they're talking about there, but I believe it's a time and night after 9 o'clock, I think you mentioned in there.
okay.
So,
9:30.
yeah, photosensors would be fine too, you know, they wouldn't have to waste electricity there. But,
Sorry, go ahead.
go ahead, no.
I was just gonna say, I think what he was implying was that once they make the changes, that they can be done remotely.
Yeah,
So that when we come into the winter time, you know, it's not being dimmed.
they'll be able to, change them much
Exactly.
easier once they pair all those devices up to their phones or their computer, whatever they're gonna use. So let's see. So we have for conditions, or do you have the
I
conditions?
think do, which I can read.
Yes, I would.
Conditions needed for the retention pond, including clean out of vegetation, clean out of a frontal pipe, that is the one that goes over the wetlands.
Is it frontal pipe?
Is it?
I would call it the pipe in the northwest corner, maybe?
Okay, let's, no, that's corner.
It's the main drain out of the pond.
Oh, I'll do that.
No, that's not the one.
The
That's
big-
not the one we're
The
talking
big
about.
one was the big one.
It's,
The
it's
one-
the one by the road, there's another one by
Yeah.
the road.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe.
In addition of new pipe, a new smaller pipe in the retention pond. Also be lighting adjustments as indicated in the discussion to shut down at night. Changes to occur within 2 weeks as indicated by approval of code enforcement. All unloading and loading to be done only on site. And final approval of the fire department inspection.
You got them all. That's right, thank you.
I think the unloaded should be specified to leave the west corner and that gravel into.
I don't think so, just on site. Loading, I mean, it's their property. If they want to pull a truck up in front and unload it, why can't they? You know, it's their property.
I think the worry was when it happens at night, the headlights from the truck are pointing at the neighbor that's directly to the right of the building.
Oh, yeah, I know they're on that side there. Yeah. I don't, what's a board thing? I don't think that's necessary. I mean, it's their, they may have deliveries in there driving that way, maybe not. As long as the deliveries are made on site, not out in the road there. I think that's all that we need to worry about. Anybody else?
To address that concern, can we have a couple of feet of 6 to 12 feet of solid fencing put up?
No.
Okay, no, just.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you could, but you know, you've got traffic down that road with headlights all the time. You know, so. Anybody else? Those were the conditions we heard, so if that's agreeable,
Anything that we need to have put on the plat.
it's all on the plat, and then we don't, I don't see the big plat here, but you've looked over the plat, correct? So those are on there. Okay, then yeah, you're right, all that has to be on the plat. Yeah. And if it's not, then I won't sign it, but. So those are the conditions. Anybody want to make the motion with those conditions?
I'll make a motion of those conditions.
Motion by Brandon to approve with the conditions that Beverly just repeated to us.
I'll second.
Seconded by Mark. Is there any further discussion? Then all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Okay, good to go.
Thank you for your time.
Just one comment, you know, this applicant has been very receptive to concerns of people and all that. And I really want to commend the applicant and the owner for this. I've heard
It goes much smoother.
nothing but good things.
Goes much smoother when they work with us and the applicant before. These guys have worked with us pretty well, so, you know, we're pretty good here.
So I'm going to get a copy of the password. Before you leave. Maybe somebody would be willing to give me their.
Yeah.
When you're done, sing with that at the end of the evening.
You'd be the-
Sure. Look up things that I need to remind myself. We're talking about Monday.
We have something else, because there are two things still sitting above. So.
All right, so we're done with that. So we're down to other business discussions, and I see you folks are waiting back there. So how can we help you?
So I'm Terry Lewis. I'm sorry, the name again? Terry Lewis. Terry Lewis. Is that
And wire on either, why, thank you.
And I live at 69 James Road. And last year I built a barn. I really shouldn't call it a barn. I wanted it to look like a barn, but it's a building. And it has a great room, almost as big as this. Downstairs has a accessory dwelling upstairs for my daughter. And we would like to have permission to have a business there. I'm a Reiki healer, so I have people that I do healing. It's kind of like massage. And I'd like to have classes, gatherings like for healing circles of 12 to 15 people, workshops, those kinds of things. I tried to work with the program for site plan. I didn't get pretty far with that. That's kind of confusing. But I've been doing some work with Mike Faulkner for driveway and such. And I came up with like 12,000 square feet for driveway space, so I knew that that would be a consideration. And I know that I have to do a site plan and all of that, but this is just a preliminary asking permission to move forward with that.
And the zone, I think that's business over there on James Road, yeah, and that's regular business zone, correct? Yep. And I'm not familiar with the property, I don't know about your frontage or any of that type of stuff there, whether you have proper frontage there or not.
I actually have a little picture of it.
She does. You've got it over here. Right. Actually, I think Stefan has done that for us there.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
on that.
So-
It's across from the,
That is
Yeah,
right
it's right across
between
the
us
fair
and
line.
highway. So I really don't have any like highway frontage, but I have that whole corner of James Road towards the end of it, and that's the dead end of James Road. In that picture, you can see my building that I built right there. Yeah, there you
Oh,
go.
yeah, and there's your frontage on James Road right there. I see it now.
Yes.
I got you.
So this is all space where I've actually had a few family weddings there. It's pretty big space. And I drew a little red line of where I was thinking of making my driveway.
There are quite a few red lines on there. Which red line?
Well, it's all
Oh,
in
it's out
the
there.
open space.
Right,
It's, oh, I see. That's your parking and driveway parking. I've got you now. What you're talking about there. I see. Yeah. For plenty of parking there. Yeah, you want to see that? It's pretty much around the buildings is what she's got outlined for parking and driveway space there. So let's see. Let's just take a look here. I'm trying to see what use it would fall under. That's why I'm looking at this up here.
So when I dreamt this up, I searched for venues and I couldn't find anything that was exactly the same usage in the town literature.
Well, the uses are kind of vague. We don't generally note every specific use.
Right.
So it's a generalized type of a use there. So let's have a look to see what we're doing here. Page 30 of our
Zoning.
business zone.
I thought you mostly residential.
Okay, and Stefan, what did you think? For the use, we've got, all right, restaurant.
We got a home occupation, home based business. I don't know if that is too general.
Nursery,
Professional, business office.
or function hall, is that where you're going?
Yes.
Function hall, it could be. Uses, so, again, yeah, we've zoning works out,
Educational activity.
or religious facility,
Your choice. No.
probably the closest would be
Can we take them all?
a function type of a hall, because it sounds like it's set up like a function hall. So it sounds like it probably, you'd go under that category then. And just explain a little bit more about your business, you know, we're just talking here, there, nothing is held
Sure.
against you or against us, we're just
Sure.
discussing.
So I actually, I have people who I deal with all the time that teach herbal classes or yoga classes, things like that. So like small gatherings.
Be different things from time to time in that
Yes.
function hall then, I
Yes.
see. Yep. And I guess the number of people you'd have to figure out how many people you have coming there, so you have the proper number of parking spaces for the function hall. And, there's a specific set, I don't know what it is right now, but it's in there.
So based on my space, I can have 48 people.
Oh, is that the fire code you're talking about? Or,
Yeah, based
Okay.
on my size of my room.
well, you have plenty of land around there,
I do.
so that should not be a problem.
My daughter's wedding was there and we had 200 people.
And how about something else that might come up would be a septic system.
Yes,
And
I have a brand new septic system for that building.
Or I can't think of much else, to run by, or anybody else? No?
Concerns would be, not having traffic spill onto the road, that's the kind of thing that people, neighbors take it into control. But you can manage that.
Yeah, I mean, so this is just the little space that I'm calling it a little space. It's probably 10 acres around the house. I also have an upper field that we drive vehicles on all the time. It's not marshy. So there's lots of space there.
You said that that middle building would be taken out, right?
Yeah, it's that one that like is black and white mixed together, that long narrow building that is coming down.
What are you proposing the surface to be made of, the driveway?
Perfect.
Okay. And how many square feet did you say it was?
12,000.
Anybody else?
I would maybe like to see a meeting with Stefan and I, kind of go over the specifics prior to site plan submittal. Just in case if there's any issue with setbacks or maybe height of the structure. When did you receive your building permit?
I'm sorry.
When did you receive the building permit for the structure?
I believe it was in October of 2022.
Okay. So if you want to set up a meeting with us to help you submit the application, I know you said it was kind of confusing. We'd like to help you through that.
I tried working with this program and.
Yeah.
every
It'll be
time
worth your while to
page
do
to
that.
page, it goes away. It's like,
Give me my first.
Take advantage
yeah.
of it.
Yeah, if you want, you can come to the office, set up a meeting with us. I'd help you walk through the application.
okay, all right, sure, thanks.
Think, yeah, pursue it if you like, and it will be worth your while if you just stop in the office, they'll help you with the app and everything.
Yeah, that way, if there are any roadblocks, we can catch them early. And we can figure out a way to overcome this.
Okay. All right, so move
And
on.
if you don't like what they say, you can still come in front of the board.
Exactly.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Good luck.
Thank you.
So under other business, Victoria has some definitions, I think, proposed definitions.
And it's just in the spirit of wanting to be fair, okay, because we're getting these new contractor bay facilities, and I just feel like we should have that use defined in our ordinance. Have contractor uses defined in our ordinance, because that is something that we're gonna see more and more of. And I think it won't hurt us, and it will probably serve us in the long run if we get challenged on by other people who. Perhaps feel like, I don't know, I mean, it's just.
I think they're good definitions. I mean, I think it makes sense to separate it like that. One of them with, a bunch of without heavy equipment, one with heavy equipment, that's one big item right there, which they go in one space and not another space, so.
Yeah, and we don't have to hash out, which of the appropriate districts at this point. I just want to put this
Yeah.
in our, our checklist of things to address.
For next
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Should we put parentheses around structural improvements and construction service? Thereby more, more specificity as to what it refers to.
Yeah, as opposed to dual
Yeah.
use, yeah.
Yeah, because there might be some districts where we'd be happy with one and not the other.
Yeah, it just ties it up a little bit neater.
Either that or a dash to set, contractor
Yeah.
dash, whatever.
Some
I
way
know what you're saying, if there's a comment kind of indicates it's two separate things.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this just for contractors and building signs?
as opposed to,
Like mechanics, HVAC.
It would be just because specifically it's talking about contractors and there are a lot of contractors that work small business and big business that work, but they are contractors, the HVAC guys and electricians and those guys don't have as much of that equipment around as these guys do. So yeah, I think it tells a difference.
So one thing that I would just suggest is, so you have contractor structural improvements. And then construction service. I think the structural improvements, I agree that, you know, it should be broken into heavy construction versus light construction essentially, right? I think including the word structural improvements on the type of contractors that you have in there might be a little confusing.
well, here's, let me tell you how that came about.
Yeah.
Because I stole most of these definitions from the APA handbook of, it's like the dictionary, planner's dictionary. And the original one was contractor home improvements.
That's
Okay.
originally where mine went, was home
Yeah,
improvement contractor.
Yeah. However, you know, when you think about these guys, they fix our houses, but they also fix other buildings.
Right.
They put it in your financial whatever. So, that's why I said structure. So it might not be the best word, but that idea. You know.
So how about instead of structural or home improvement, we go with remodeling or improvement contractor? Because I don't see, like,
Okay.
with this
Yeah.
definition, right, that implies that they're doing nothing that's structural, that has to do with the actual structural component of the building itself, right? It's all on stuff that I'm seeing there.
This is the first one, the contractors,
Yeah.
or the second one, the contractor.
Yeah, remodeling, and then maybe like the second one could be general construction, and then maybe even add a third one for specialty to cover mechanical, plumbing, electricians.
Well, I think the mechanical plumbing electricians fit in the first category. That's where they are in my head. When I'm just imagining people going into these contractor bays
Mhm.
and I'm picturing plumbers, you know, as a possible occupant.
So maybe we just call that specialty contractor instead.
Okay. But
So when you say heavy equipment also, would you like consider a skid steer, mini excavator, heavy equipment? Or are you talking about like anything that requires a CDL to transport, you know?
I think I would, something that, you know, a big. No, I don't know, that's a good question to me too.
You know, because a lot of the small landscapers have
Yeah.
all 1-ton dump truck and it's skid steer / mini excavator, stuff like that.
Well, again, I'm going back to these contractor days, you know, where the theory is that there's one group of people who can fit all their stuff in those bays, and then there's another group where they really.
They need a lay down yard.
They're appropriate tenants for those facilities, because
Yeah.
you know, there's not parking there for them, so they would need to be in a different kind of place.
Well,
So,
we've got a long time to discuss this and think about it and stuff, because it won't come up until next year, next town meeting.
but I
So,
just don't want to forget about
no,
it, so.
no, and yeah, definitely make sure we don't forget about it, because I think it'd be a good addition to the zoning ordinance.
Would it make sense to add on to whatever, however we break it up, you know, kind of a, for example, electrician, plumber, whatever.
We do that in there, yeah,
Okay,
to
because I
help
think-
clarify,
think
especially in the heavy equipment part of it that Brandon brought up there, we might want to clarify what we're talking
Because
about.
sometimes that example is
Yep,
enough
really.
to.
Yeah, we'll come up with something there.
List a couple of, actually, words precedent, including but not limited to.
Mhm.
And then you list the type of things you're concerned with. And that way, if somebody comes in with something different, including but not limited to, allows
Us to make
flexibility.
If you guys don't mind, I can do some research on how the municipalities define these types of bays in the ivory and before. But I can do some research on if these have been defined anywhere else. That way we can at least have something to work off of. But happy to look into this some more to see if these can be.
We'll have more too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Suppose though that they could be limited as to what size equipment they could fit in there. Like if you're referring to the storage unit type
Yeah.
place,
Yeah,
you know, they're only like 8 feet tall
right.
or something like that.
Yeah,
not
that's
even.
right.
So you wouldn't be exactly driving a Cat 660 or whatever, you know,
No.
skitter in there.
That's if the site plan or if the conditions are that they have to have all their equipment undercover in a building, you know, if that's specified, then yeah, it would the size of the equipment would be the size of the building, whatever that would be, so that could be in there too.
But I think we do have that use in town, you know, guys who
Yeah.
have that.
A lot of it, yeah.
And so to have a provision for where they should be parking that stuff, when there is.
Yep, better for them, better for us. Do that. Mark, you wanted to clarify something in our site plan review regulations.
Yeah, so like you said, I apologize. I didn't quite convey what I wanted to convey last meeting. So in the approval section, section C, it says site plan approval will be valid for 1 year after the date upon which the board voted to approve, provided that. What I would like to see there is just adding literally 3 words, okay? So we read, site plan approval would be valid for 1 year after the date upon which the board voted to approve, comma, the approval date, with approval dates in quotes, comma, provided that. And what that's doing is.
Run that by again, just before you get to the explanation. We're on page 13, no, page 12.
It's page
12 and 13.
12, it's kind of, yeah. So it's section 6C.
So go again,
So site plan approval will be valid for 1 year after the date upon which the board voted to approve, comma, the approval date, comma, provided that. So what you're doing is you're giving that a label and you're making it stand out because it's in quotes, approval date. The reason for that is you can now use that approval date with more clarity in other parts. So for example, and I am conditional approval, section 7B. Let me see if I.
That's what we.
yeah, we should have did that, yeah.
Okay. If a conditional approval has been granted pursuant to 6A in this section, the condition needs to be met within 1 year. Or the approval is no void. Maybe that's not the right.
Well, that's the one we just changed that.
Okay,
And
Okay.
within 1
yeah,
year,
okay, so here it is. So it's if a conditional approval has been granted pursuant to 7A in this section, the condition shall be met within 1 year after the date upon which the board voted to approve, comma, the approval date, comma, otherwise approval is null or void. So once again, you're emphasizing that original date.
and you don't think that the date upon which the approval, the board voted to approve is the approval date? I mean, you
There-
don't have to say that, do you? I mean, that is
Yeah.
the approval date.
Well,
Well, we are saying that with the language that we have.
Yeah, it says that there's no other way to interpret that other than that is the date that you approved it. And whatever date that was that the board voted, and it's not that the chairman signed it, it's the date the board voted it here at this table.
just because it says if a conditional approval, so now you're bringing in this conditional approval on top of the original approval date.
But they are two separate things that we have to approach, conditional approval.
But the clock started ticking from the approval date.
Yeah, and we cleared that up by adding that the last time we voted that last.
That last meeting that.
Yeah.
you missed.
Mhm.
Because we used to give them time, after they came in with all their permits and approvals and things like that from other sources, then we gave them a year after that date. But it's too long, somebody's gonna misuse that, so.
C is now deleted out of there. But,
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, C's out of there. So again,
So one other possible rationale for it would be section 6C. Looks like it's number 5. So after vote of approval, the approval becomes effective when 3 copies of the site plan are signed by the chair of the planning board. Right there, that's, reading it's, to me, gets a little confusing, right? Because now you're talking about an approval of something else.
No, what do you mean approval of something else?
Well, because it says the approval becomes effective when 3 copies of the site plan are signed by the chair.
Yeah,
The approval was made on what I call the approval date.
yeah, and that's why it says after vote of approval, okay, that vote has been taken, there is an approval, then it becomes effective when it's been signed by the chairman. It doesn't necessarily say that the clock doesn't start running until then.
Mhm.
We've clarified that already in here.
That you can act upon,
Pardon?
like that's when you can act upon.
Well, you have approval, but now the conditions have been met and now you can act upon it. I think it's exactly the case.
Act upon it, meaning you can start construction or something like that, is what you're talking about,
You
acting?
start certain, there's some things you can do prior to that. What I gathered from, but you can't start
Well, the
the primary.
terms like effective, I think, and there are one or more other terms used in the RSAs. Because it's kind of confusing there as well. They talk about final approval and they talk about just regular approval, but there's no real definition of what final approval is. But is for intents and purposes of the clock, the time clock, 1 year and that type of stuff. We've nailed down that the approval is, and it's in the RSAs, the approval is when the board votes on it, not when the letter goes out, not when it's signed by the chairman, it's when the board approves it, votes to approve it.
So
So if that's true, so we have a meeting tonight, we voted through, theoretically, Nucar could go down there and, get a shovel and start working tonight, right? But this says that approval becomes effective, in other words, only is operational after you have signed 3 copies, so they couldn't do that, they couldn't go out tonight and start.
Well,
They could go out tonight because those plats aren't signed sometimes until a month or 2 afterwards. And they usually get going prior to that.
So what does it mean, the approval becomes effective, what does that mean, approval becomes effective?
I'm not sure exactly what that means. It's used in different places in the RSAs,
And you get confused when you read the RSA's.
but I have always taken it to mean that it's more like final, or it's official. That the approval is actually official when the chairman signs the plat. And of course, it's registered up to the registry of deeds. Effective, official. I've thought they're the same thing in what they're talking about.
So if you deleted effective and put final.
No, I think we could leave that in there, but the RSAs don't define final approval as the chairman signing it. They mention final approval, but they don't really tell you what it is, so. I think we should just leave that alone.
We just voted on 12 amendments, something like that,
Zoning amendments, yeah.
zoning amendments. Shouldn't we wait and see how they work before we start?
We're talking about site plan
That's
review
different,
regulations,
yeah.
but seeing as how you brought that up, I went over the zoning amendments that we voted on, or the whole town voted on. And they're word for word, exactly what was on the warrant, so you can give us our new copies of them at your convenience.
So one thought on this paragraph. Perhaps consider adding maybe a sentence like the delay in meeting plat requirements does not change the approval date. I mean, it just provides so much clarity to me.
What does anybody else think? I think it's clear enough when it says, after the board voted, site plan approval will be valid for 1 year after the date upon which the board voted to approve. That is only one time, one date, that's it.
I'm just trying to avoid us being.
I think we
Supreme
did.
Court.
We are gonna be in Supreme Court.
I think we tried to do the clarity because of the plain view situation we're in right now,
Correct.
but they've had it over a year now. And they haven't even started anything at all.
Yeah,
And I don't know where we stand on that. Maybe Stefan knows more about it than we do, but they haven't even evacuated the people out of there yet.
no,
They have until July 13th.
yeah, we don't know what's going on with that.
That's-
Do you have any information?
It hasn't gone through sale yet. As far as I'm concerned.
I know they submitted an updated. That's right.
But they haven't had a bill of, they haven't sold yet, hasn't been finalized on the sale.
Submitted additional
You can
information.
check that, at the courthouse.
For the parking. That's the correction that would be made. I believe. Just waiting back.
So are we done on the site plan review regulations? Done on our,
Well, I just,
just seeing what the rest of the board
yeah,
thinks.
I mean, I read it and I said, just could provide more clarity.
I think I can do an analogy here, if it works or not, but being an old realtor, this came to mind. When you go and you close on a house, you go to the bank, you sign all paperwork, it's your house, right? You can then go and move in, but it's not officially yours until it goes, that paperwork gets into the registered deeds. So it's not official yet. But it is official.
Well, the site plans aren't really official until they're registered either. For
Right.
that,
Right,
for that.
that's the analogy.
But they still have the approval and they can
Right.
still do it.
Right. That's the analogy I made. Something could come up in between, like with ours, that would put a wrench in the whole place. It's happened to me on real deals.
You better brush up on your skills, realtor skills there, and get yourself in that kind of hot water.
When you get into a 30, boy, I tell you, they can play some tricks.
I know it. So is there anything else for the order of the business this evening? Anybody have anything else for the order? No? Nobody else is here anyways, no?
Oh, I would tell everybody, 538, SB 538 was passed by the Senate on a voice vote, so they didn't have to record their votes. That's gonna affect us.
And catch us up on that.
Well, it's a long, hard thing. Basically,
Is that a
is
House bill? Is that a House bill or Senate?
no, that's a Senate bill,
Senate
SB 538.
Oh,
Basically, in a nutshell, it increases density. Okay,
And any idea how much?
well, not as much as, they have this thing now called strong towns. They're trying to do away with single family homes. Okay, that's the goal.
Interesting.
So I saw an article about that and I'm very confused about it because it is,
Got it right?
I think it had to do with a bill that it would permit property owners to build additional small
Yeah, I think that's what that is.
on their lot without
Right.
subdividing.
I think that's what that is.
So, but that wouldn't be mandated, I wouldn't be required to build.
They consider a right.
It would be permitted, but it wouldn't be mandated because. I was just wondering the logic of it, because, okay, so I build a tiny house on my property, housing is incredibly expensive to build, right? So it's gonna take a lot of time to get back, how much money I put into that construction through rental. So I'm just not sure how motivated people would be to do that.
The single person is probably not gonna be that motivated. It's gonna be the developers are gonna buy a chunk of land like over in North Swanzey. We try to put a stop to the big buildings and stuff. If he bought a big enough block,
You could build lots of tiny houses.
a lot of it, it depends on how much land he's got. And also part of that thing is the parking. The parking and stuff. There's a part, okay, go ahead.
Oh, it's just a quick sentence, it's an analysis, that summarizes, the bill pretty well. So this bill establishes a tax relief program for office conversion to residences, enables municipalities to allow its governing body to adopt certain zoning ordinances or some zoning ordinance changes, and adds additional authority and zoning powers for parking requirements and lot size requirements related to sewer infrastructure.
Can you read that again slowly? Because I want to interrupt you a couple of times. That bill is so long, it's not, that he's just reading a part of the analysis.
Yep, it's just a
Positive part.
So this bill establishes a tax relief program for office conversion to residences. Enables municipalities to allow its governing body to adopt certain zoning ordinance changes.
Enables.
Enables, so not required. And adds additional authority and zoning powers for parking requirements and lot size requirements related to sewer infrastructure.
And that's part of it there.
That part of it there, but that's a very small part of that bill.
But that part of it there is.
It's a quick summary.
They put the positive one in there like they're trying to help us.
It doesn't look like we're being.
You get into read the other sections of the bill, and I can't summarize it all right now. It does increase density when you get this.
I think there about the parking was that they were gonna reduce the amount of parking that was required for.
Right, and if there's a disagreement between the board and the developer, But
I don't know whether they were mandating towns that they had to go for that parking part or not. I don't know that. I haven't read the bill. So
I'm just saying we should all read the
you
bill.
can just adopt, it, right? Yeah, they can adopt that.
Yeah, there's other ones out there too that they're moving through. That there's one like she was talking about, they're now gonna allow a second ADU.
Yeah,
Up to 850 feet on a second. The problem with that one is, if I read the bill right, is that the setbacks that we have in ours don't count. You can't require more than a 4-foot setback.
yeah, I don't know. I have to look into that. It doesn't sound right either that they.
That'd be, I
Enforce
think
that.
that's, it's 1391 and 1399 and 1291. There's a bunch of them. I don't have them with me right now.
They just sound overreaching, some of them.
They do, but I don't know if they're really doing that or not. Generally, they don't force us to do stuff like that. I know on the housing thing, yeah, they've come up with a few things that the towns have to do as far as allowing multifamily, low-income housing, workforce housing, and that type of stuff there.
I don't know if it's the 538, but one of those also require that multi-family homes have to be allowed in any district that single-family homes are allowed in.
Are you sure it's that, or are you sure it's a majority of the districts that allow residential?
Any residential or rural, anything that's single-family home is allowed in any district.
I know, check back with that to see, because in the RSA's, unless they changed, I guess they did change it, you're saying, but in the RSA is about that multifamily and the workforce housing. I think it says it's got to be allowed in the majority of zones that you allow residential in, but not in all of them.
I think that was last year's bill. This bill, I think I'm right, and I'll go check, I'll double
Yeah,
check.
research that, keep us updated on that stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I
That's
will.
your job now.
Do I get a pay raise?
Sure.
100%
What the rest of us
zero.
do.
100% is zero,
You
right?
get as much as we do, yeah.
Even get a
Anything else?
15% bonus.
What about the new regulations on water purity as far as West Swanzey?
I don't know how they've tested out for those PFAS chemicals there. Do not know if they've had those tested. They probably have. I haven't heard. Don't know how that's gonna affect those guys or not, but it's not only them, it's gonna be everybody if they get their way to affect it there. It's, you know.
Any public water system, correct? Not private.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, and I don't know, what is it, 25 or more people on, I think, if Sly was here, he could tell us, 25 or more people, I think, is designates a public water supply. But yeah, I don't know about that over there.
What was interesting about that is the 6 chemicals that they isolated were the ones that they've done the most research and most data on. But they also recognize in order to purify the water, but against those 6, you're probably purifying it against, another 1,000 of them, which is, fantastic, really, in some ways. But, the expense and the cost is what.
Yeah, that's gonna put a lot of them under there, and they also, as far as I know, they still don't have regional labs set up that can test for them. Because we're talking about parts per billion, not parts per million anymore, because they can test down so small now. They're changing all the regulations to test them to regulate it for that small. It's happening to all the treatment plants and stuff, and now the water plants as well. So you're talking about if you took $10 million, converted it into pennies, you're looking for 1 part, or if it's 1 part per billion, it's 1 penny out of that $10 million worth of pennies. That pile. I mean, that's pretty small. But they can test for that small, so they're getting that small, and yeah, those chemicals there, they cause harm. They can cause harm, or I guess in the laboratory they've caused harm. But in what quantities? You're talking about billions, parts per billion there. Alcohol is a poison, that'll kill you. But if you drink enough of it or consume enough of it, but if you don't, then it's not a problem. And a lot of these chemicals, yeah, we all have them in our systems probably, but is it gonna do anything?
Keep taking them out, we're gonna lose our natural immunity.
Well, you might be right about that. Anything else? Then motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn by Rick, second by Brandon. All those in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Well, that was like so much. Where you can stay.